All right, Jim, would you look and see if that's still in the right place? All right, so we are in the Teacher's Manual, Section 9, in the section called Are Changes Required in the Life Situations of You and Me? Are changes required? It's interesting, are changes required? Required, like you gotta change. You're gonna change, you gotta change. Is that the way it is? In the life of somebody who has decided that they want their life to be part of the solution, part of the healing of mankind. When someone's decided that they want their life to be part of the healing of mankind, even if they don't know it, are changes required in their lives? That's the question, okay? Remember, God's teacher is anyone who for one moment saw their interests as not separate from someone else's for a moment. And in that moment, they became a teacher of God, even if they don't believe in God. Wow. So basically, if you one time saw your interest as not separate from somebody else's. Now, and if your life is about that now, where it's like, how can I be of service? How can I be of service? Then you are a teacher of God, meaning a demonstrator of love. Teacher means demonstrator. To teach does not mean words. To teach, according to the Course, means to demonstrate. You may be saying one thing, but demonstrating another. Anybody ever notice that in themselves?
Oh, yeah. That's when I say, take my advice, I won't be using it.
Exactly, take my advice. I won't be using it.
That's what we did.
Exactly. Exactly.
So that means practice what you preach.
Exactly. In other words, hi. In other words, you are not, you are, whatever you're doing, can I help you? Hi.
Oh, bathroom.
Oh, sure. Uh-huh. Okay. So here we go. Okay, so anybody in here who qualifies as a teacher of God? Okay. Okay, good.
One time I got that.
All right. Says changes are required in the minds of God's teachers. Now, changing in the minds of us may or may not involve changes in the external situation. Maybe. Remember that no one is where they are by accident, which means chance plays no part in God's plan. Would somebody be willing to close that door? Mm-hmm. Thank you. This must be a good section. All right. Remember what? Remember that no one is where they are by accident. Where are you? It ain't no accident. Okay? Which means chance plays no part in God's plan. And so, it is most unlikely that changes in attitudes would not be the first step in the newly made teacher of God's training. So, you are in training, by the way. You are in training. And the first thing probably that's going to happen for you is a change in attitude. Okay? So is that happening from anybody? You notice your attitude's changing. Okay? So good. So you're on track. And he says, there is, however, no set pattern. Why? Since training is always highly individualized. So that's something that's important for you to know about A Course in Miracles and also your program, your training program, okay? So in your training program is specialized for you, and mine is specialized for me, okay? That's how you can tell that it's of God, right? So it's specialized for each one of us. He says, but there are those who are called upon to change their life situation almost immediately. Anybody going through that? Okay. Now, but these folks are generally special cases. Oh, you're such a special case. You're a special case. You're a special case. Okay, so there are some teachers of God, they got to change their situation almost immediately. In other words, time to go. Time to go now. No, don't wait. Sorry, must go now, right? He says, but he says those are generally special cases. And that's because by far the majority of us are given a slowly evolving training program. In what? In which as many previous mistakes as possible are corrected. Okay?
That's Chris and my line. We like that
The
line.
slow path.
As many previous mistakes corrected.
That's right. Or you like mine, which
Yes,
says
don't we?
slow,
Yes.
slow, slow. Get out now. Slow, slow. Change now. Slow, slow. Okay. So it's highly specialized. It may progress slowly for a while and then must move now. And then slowly for a while must move now. Or maybe you have a training plan that's just like quick change, dramatic change after dramatic change after dramatic change. You know, everyone's training is specialized, highly individualized. What do you? I mean, your higher self, your expanded self, knows who you are, knows what you need, knows God's plan for you. Knows God's plan for you, knows your part in that plan, knows exactly how you best can fulfill that plan. It knows who you need for that plan, and whomever you need for your plan that day is always present for you every day. Wow. Now, he says, so some of us have a training program that's slow, where as many previous mistakes as possible are corrected. You're just going along, every once in a while, oh, there's a mistake that needs to be corrected. Going along, whoop, there's a mistake that needs to be corrected, right? That's the slow program. And then the fast program is like, no, you're going to change your entire life right now. Okay, ready?
Oh.
Great. Now you're not going to resist, are you? Right. So just know that if it's either one of those, you're on track. And just because your timing or your pace doesn't seem to match the people around you does not decrease its validity in any way. So just remember that. Yes.
So then, would it be accurate for me to say then that, like, I'm gonna use Kimberly for example. Would it be accurate to say then that like let's say I see Kimberly studying every day, like the course, and then I start feeling bad. I'm like, oh, I should study every day, but I don't. But like sometimes I'm called to like study like maybe like a couple times a week, and not every day. Then that's okay. Right?
Absolutely. That's what he's saying. Just remember that all the training programs are highly individualized. Okay, so then it says the training program that's long, where as many previous mistakes are as possible are corrected. Well, relationships in particular must be properly perceived, which means reinterpreted, which means what? All dark cornerstones of unforgiveness removed. Okay, so basically the training program goes like this. You know all those past relationships, you got all those grievances and guilt around? Remember them? You know, the ones you've been running from? Remember those? Well, in this training program, all the relationships must be reinterpreted. This is interesting that the training program is about the reinterpretation of your relationships, which means all your dark cornerstones of unforgiveness need to be removed in this training program. That's what it's about. This is a grievance removal system. You know, you think of like tree, you know, a service that pulls out tree roots, like a tree root removal service. This is like a grievance, a dark cornerstone removal system. That's what this path is for. So as you go along, if you notice some very old relationship patterns related to grievances or victimness, don't be surprised if they get popped up rather frequently as you progress in this program. That's what it's about. Relationships in particular must be properly perceived. I need to properly perceive my relationships. What does that mean? That means all dark cornerstones of unforgiveness need to be removed. Wow. So if you are on your training path and there's some major cornerstones of unforgiveness that are being popped up into your experience, you are on track. Don't interpret it like, oh, I'm not doing this right because, hey, look what's coming up for me, right? The truth is that they're being popped up. Those cornerstones of guilt that are buried are being popped up so that you can reinterpret those relationships. Old relationships, new relationships need to be reinterpreted. That's what this plan is about. And once those relationships are reinterpreted in the light of true forgiveness, then guess what? That pattern's gone. That particular pattern, you know, that relationship that keeps coming back around, you know that one. You know, different face, same feelings, right? That's how it is done, okay? So that's what this training program is about. Sorry. So it says, relationships in particular must be properly perceived, and which means all dark cornerstones of unforgiveness removed. Wow. Why is it that has to happen first? Why is it that has to happen first? That has to happen first because otherwise the old thought system still has a basis for return. In other words, if you don't get them grievances out of the way, then guess what? The whole old thought system that you're trying to, let go of still has a basis to return. It's like trying to remove something from your body. Like if you don't get the roots of it, right, it comes back, right? So in here, if those old grievances aren't popped up and brought to true forgiveness, real forgiveness as the Course teaches it, then even though you get rid of that relationship and you start studying A Course in Miracles, guess what? The old thought system still has a basis to return. It still has something to come back to. Wow. Okay. So that's the beginning. That's the beginning. That's what happens in the beginning. All right? Now it says, as the teacher of God advances in their training, they learn one lesson with increasing thoroughness. What's that? As I progress in my training, I learn one lesson with increasing thoroughness, which is what? I do not make my own decisions. As your training goes on, what's it always going to come back to? Don't make my own decisions. Don't decide for myself. Don't decide for myself. Oh yeah, what was it? I forgot to make no decisions by myself. I forgot. And I was all day long making decisions for myself. I decided what that meant, and then I decided what that meant, and then I decided by myself what that was for, and then I decided what I am, and then I decided what they are, and then I decided what I need by myself, and then I decided by myself what they needed. As your training progresses, you learn with increasing thoroughness not to make decisions by yourself. Wow. That's some serious training, huh?
This would be like where you say, decide for God for me.
Exactly.
More and more and more frequently until you're doing it many times every day.
Until that is your first thought.
That just like the fall and intuition type thing. Just not let your mind get over things and kind of act before you really process it through that.
Yeah, the Course says before you do anything, this is what Holy Spirit says, before you do anything, this is an instruction he gives. Before you do anything, ask me if your decision is in alignment with my will for you, and if it is, there will be no fear. So there is a great instruction as to how to don't make decisions by yourself. Okay? Now, every time you are suffering or experiencing anything but joy and peace, you have made a decision by yourself. You asked a question by yourself and you answered it. Gee, what does this relationship mean? Oh, I'll tell it myself. You know, walking around talking to yourself. Any time you are to say, hey, I don't know what this means, and spirit, loving right mind, love, whatever you call that loving spirit, decide for love for me, or hey, love, what does this mean? Spirit, what is this for? Decide for me about this for me, love. Now, whenever you do that, that's what got you the results that were peaceful, loving, abundant, safe, and joyous with no cost. That's the kind of good time we want, right? So, what is this training program about? How to not make decisions by myself. How to not make decisions by myself. It's a fantastic process or practice. Like for 15 minutes, practice not making any decisions by yourself. Meaning kind of like a practice of trying not to generate your own thoughts for just a few minutes. It's a very interesting practice, seeing what happens. Can you imagine a few minutes of not generating your own thoughts? Wow. And just staying open, 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 open to receiving. Try it sometime.
So this is trying to get to the core of what's going on. Instead of us deciding what should I do or what should I say,
right,
we go to what should I think.
Exactly.
Because until you think you know what something means, you
Right.
don't have a clue how to react to it.
Exactly. So so now the game plan goes from, let me make a plan, let me first decide what it means and then make a plan. It goes from that to, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to call on spirit and I'm going to ask, what is for? What does it mean? Decide for me. What would you have me do? How would you have me see this? Help me reinterpret this. So you're going to ask first. So, you know, have you ever seen those signs, those hunting signs, ask first? Right? So I just, like, one just flashed in front of my mind. So, like, that's going to be a major part of our training program. We are going through a training program. If you're a student of the course, you may not realize it, but you are now have embarked on a training program, right? So in this training program, this gets drilled in your head. Ask first, ask first, ask first, ask first, ask first, ask first, ask first. Don't make any decisions by yourself. Now, when you are experiencing an effect that is unpleasant or painful or scary, then you're supposed to go, oh, I must have made a decision by myself. I forgot what I really wanted. Hey, Spirit, I would like your decision. I would like your interpretation of this, okay? Ask first. I'm gonna have a little sign in my house. Ask first. Ask first. Yes.
What did it say? As you progress, you will learn one lesson, increasing, what was the word?
Thoroughness, or increasing thoroughness. You're going to learn it over and 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 over. You're going to get sick of it.
How do you tune in to hear it?
Well, just by you asking and having the intent to listen instead of make it up, that is what builds the bridge to your ability to hear. So whether it's building a bridge internally or from external, your decision and desire to hear that voice, your guidance, will open your internal ears. And if your internal ears aren't open, it will show it to you or give it to you in another way. It will show you something, right, that where you'll get it, where you'll go, oh, I get it, oh, I get it. So, okay, does that make sense? Okay, all right, so it says, okay, here's what you do. Instead of making decisions by yourself, you're going to do this. You're going to ask your teacher for your teacher's answer. That's what you're going to do in place of making it all up yourself, but without even asking. Okay? Eventually it's going to seem insane that we've been sitting there talking to ourselves, getting ourselves all upset, and then we never even asked. I've been sitting here processing this and analyzing this and making plans around this and judging this for half an hour. And I never even stopped to ask, right? So more and more that's going to seem insane. So what we are going to do though is we're going to ask our teacher for our teacher's answer. That's about it. And then we're going to follow our teacher's guide for action. So instead of making decisions by ourselves, we're going to say, hey teacher, what's your answer? What's your answer? And then we're going to try to follow our teacher's guidance. That's going to be the new approach, okay? Old approach, I just talk to myself, I make it up, I plan, I interpret, I decide, I judge, and I plan, and then I act from that. That's the old way. And then the new, in this training program, I ask my teacher for my teacher's answer, and then I follow what I hear.
Oh, it's almost like, well, the old plan is like, well, if all else fails, I'll ask God.
Yes.
You know, like
Yes.
I've tried everything else.
Yes,
okay,
yes. That's right. I've tried everything else, and now I'm desperate. And I'll try God. Right, exactly. This plan is save yourself some time. Save yourself some time and some suffering. Just ask first. How much time do you think? Time, suffering, pain, tears, money. How much time and money do you think we'd be saving ourselves if we really did ask first? For our teacher's answer.
Some of this is going to come to us in ways we may not recognize, in thinking that as long as we're just doing our own little, we're deciding,
Yes.
we're making up the answers.
Right.
There's never any new information in that.
That's right.
The ego never has anything new.
That's right.
So we're going to hear a new interpretation, we're going to
That's
see
right.
something different, we're going to, oh, I never thought. All of those are clues that all these are answers to these things we're asking.
Beautiful. Thank you
So
for
just be
saying
aware,
that.
if it's a new thing,
Thank you. Thank you so much for saying that. So that's an important part, because as you're learning how to listen, how can you tell whether it really is the voice of your teacher or your voice in disguise? Well, just like Jim said, one way to be able to tell whether it's your teacher's answer or your answer is this. If it sounds crazy and doesn't seem to even answer the question as you thought it, good chance it's your teacher's answer. That's crazy. That's not even addressing what I was asking. That doesn't make any sense. Now, because if it's going to be your teacher's answer, it's going to introduce something that truly you had not thought of. And it's not going to address the problem you thought you had, because that is not your problem. So it's going to be something you think about, and something that seems to not even answer your problem as you saw it. Like, we're asking, like, who besides me needs to change in this situation for me to be happy? That's my question. Teacher. And your teacher says, you need to forgive yourself. what? That's not what I asked, right? So that's one way you can tell, and so it's good to know. How can I tell when I'm hearing my voice masquerading as God, or truly the voice of my teacher giving me some new information?
Now I guess where I get confused about hearing my inner teacher is like sometimes I get a feeling, but sometimes I don't. Sometimes I get a thought, sometimes I don't. And so then I'm expecting, oh, okay, well, this is how the answer is going to come.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's
That's right.
it doesn't
Exactly.
way.
And
so
the truth is that it always comes. The fact that you have asked your teacher for anything guarantees that you will be answered. Now, if you still are committed to thinking that your problem is what you think it is, then you won't get it. That answer will come and you're like, ooh, sure wish I could be answered. Not realizing that your answer is right there. So just remember, it is impossible that you ask your teacher for its answer and you are not answered. It doesn't work like that. God and God's teaching angels, teaching helpers, they were created to respond to your desire for truth. They were created for that, meaning they're extremely sensitive. In other words, you may not, you just have barely have a wish for Spirit's answer, and it is attracted to you, it is given to you. Now, if you're still clinging to your version of your problem, then good chance you're not going to perceive that answer, even though it's there. And the Course says that God and His teaching angels are so loving that they just hold it for you. They keep that answer for you, so that when you're ready, they go boop, and then you're like, oh man, that was there all the time, right? That was there all the time, because your teacher is holding it for you until you want the answer instead of being right, or more than you want to be right. It's waiting for you. All the answers that you've received that you haven't perceived because they didn't fit your ideas are still waiting for you. They're being held there for you. For when you're ready, then your teacher pops them in. Okay? Now, it says, and then addressing the question about hearing our teacher's answer, right? First asking for our teacher's answer and then hearing our teacher's answer, he says, this becomes easier and easier as you learn to give up your own judgment. Oh, that's how it works. As I learn to give up my judgment, this is what it should be happening. This is what they should be doing. This is what I should be doing. This is what this means. This is what this was. I learn to give up my judgment like I don't know what's in my own best interest. That's me giving up judgment. I don't know what's in my own best interest. I don't know what's in theirs. As I learn to give up my own judgment, it becomes easier and easier and easier to hear that voice, to hear the voice of my teacher. The voice of my teacher is very clear, very clear, very easy to understand. Always answers. It always answers. It always answers. And it's very simple, and it's very easy to hear. Except for one little thing. My mind is full of my judgments. My mind is full of my beliefs that I know. I don't need to ask. I don't need to ask. Asking is for amateurs. I know. Did I mention that I'm of a certain age? Did I mention I have a degree? Did I mention, I am full of judgment. I know I am because I walk around demonstrating that I don't need to ask. I walk around demonstrating that I think I know, even no matter what my words say. I'm demonstrating that I think I know. So the degree to which I think I know, meaning I'm full of judgment, is to the same extent that I'm asking through the day. How much do you ask through the day? Well, the number of times you ask a day lets you know just how much you think you know enough to take care of yourself. Wow, that's insane. There are some days where I'm like, wow, I'm sitting here acting like I know enough to keep myself perfectly safe and provided for at all times. Wow, that's breathtaking. That's the way I'm acting. But I don't know. That's why I need to be asking.
Sometimes you ask a lot. You ask, all through the day. And you might not think that you know. Even though all that is there, you might not receive the answer.
Well, what I hear the Course saying is that you do receive the answer, but your mind may be so full of something else.
That's what I mean by receiving.
Got it. Yeah, so that you have received it, but you are not perceiving it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've received it, but you haven't accepted it. It's like the answer's been given me, but I don't accept that answer.
It's not the answer I want.
It's not the answer I want.
That happens all the time to me.
Right. Because I'm asking, what do I need to do? What do they need to do? I'm asking myself, what do I need to get? What do I need to plan? What do I need to do so that I get what I want? That's pretty much the content of my questions, of my consciousness, right? What do I need to do? What do I need to plan? How do I need to plan to get what I want? And what besides me needs to change for me to be happy? So when my teacher tells me, remember you're not separate from God, I'm like, I don't even hear it. And then I go, wow, I asked, but I wasn't answered. Yeah, you were. But because you thought your problem was something in terms of action or physical or someone else, then you don't recognize it when Spirit says, remember you're not separate from God. Because I don't think my issue is that I think I'm separate from the source field of all good, right? I don't, your one problem is that you think you're separate from the source of all good. And so I don't see that as my problem. I think they're the problem. I think money's the problem. I think my body's the problem. And so when I hear the voice tell me, remember you're not separate from God, I'm just like, oh, I'm sorry, that voice must have been talking to someone else. I must have mistakenly got someone else's answer. I need to retune. I guess my little tuner's broken. So, go ahead.
What I heard you say was that you will know it's God's answer when it sounds like something you haven't thought of, or it seems like it doesn't make sense to you.
Yes.
But I know my ego is really tricky.
Yeah.
So that if I'm like, if I think of an answer and I'm like, okay, I'm like trying to reject it, right? I'm like,
Right.
okay, I don't really want that. So, could that be also like a trick on my ego?
Well, that thought, hey Christian, when you go out there, will you tell those girls they need to be in the library?
Okay.
Thank you, dear.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Could that be actually God's answer? This is kind of like going around in my mind, so I don't know if it's making sense when it's coming out. But what I'm saying is like, because I know my ego is tricky. So is that the only two things that I should be focused on?
Right. Well, you will learn, like I said, this will become easier and easier. So you're going to be able to fine-tune. You're going to be fine-tuning your awareness of when you listen to your ego's voice and when you listen to your teacher's voice. So maybe you get an answer and you're a little confused, I'm not sure whose voice it is, but then you see the result. And then you're like, oh, well, obviously that was my ego's voice.
Okay.
So, and then you'll be able to fine tune your listening and your awareness in that way. Okay, all right. So he says, this is going to become easier and easier as you learn to give up your own judgment, your own belief that you know, even though you're not ecstatic. And he says, so the giving up of judgment, which is the obvious prerequisite for hearing God's voice, is usually a fairly slow process. So if you feel like you've been doing this a long time and it's moving slowly, then you're doing it. So what makes my journey to awakening and to freedom slow? What makes it slow? Well, because giving up judgment is the obvious prerequisite to hearing God's voice. And I love my judgment. I love it. I'm addicted to it. That's my one habit.
For myself, my limited experience doing this, it usually goes real close to like this. We'll ask often, but we don't really mean it.
Right.
You know, give me my answers, what we really.
Right.
So we ask, but then we can't hear it. And we go, well, what's up with this, you know?
Right.
How come I can't hear you? And usually what I hear is, stop talking.
Exactly.
Because
That's
you
right.
can't hear somebody else as long as you're talking.
Exactly.
And you're only talking as long as you think you know.
That's right.
And once you get there that you don't think you know, then the answer's there. So I will warn everybody, don't even do this unless you want something even better than what you thought you wanted. Because that's the way it happens.
Wow.
Thank you.
It's powerful stuff.
Thank you.
But it will kind of threaten you and stretch you a little bit often. Don't you think, Ed?
I know. I know. Okay. So it may seem like a slow process. What's it may seem like a slow process? Being able to hear your teacher's voice answering you. And it only seems to be slow because of your unwillingness to give up judgment, right? The unwillingness to give up judgment. Yes, Michael?
To me, we maybe got in the middle of a conversation, because to me, this whole discussion can only really have a foundation in which we've made a very large commitment to all that is. First, because otherwise we're limiting ourselves to a very small circle of concerns that are pivotal to ourselves and our own survival. While if one were to create a much larger game that has ideally every molecule of existence become realized, then there's a far larger viewpoint in which we don't have the answers. And we're willing to sit back and watch what the answer is now that we've become a new being that has a very large focus.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's
and a very large support net.
Amen to that. Well. Absolutely. So when we give up judgment, we are able to access a network of support that is truly cosmic on a grand scale, more than you can even conceive, all on the other side of your judgment. All on the other side of your judgment. It's like judgment makes that dial, that radio stuck, right? So you can't tune in to eternity, which means all the vast resources that were created for you, for the asking. You can't tune into that treasure house, that storehouse of resources for you. You can't tune into that because judgment has made the dial stick. So if you want to know where your abundance is, or where your power is, or where your freedom is, or where your abundance is, or your healing is, it is right on the other side of your judgment. It is right on the other side. If you can find that judgment, which shouldn't be hard, just listen to yourself talk to yourself. That's where your judgment is. Listen to yourself talking to yourself. Like the Course says, stop being so tolerant of mind wandering. Start paying attention to your thoughts. Stalk them. Stalk them. Stalk them. Because they are producing your world while you sleep. They are producing your world while you're just condoning mind wandering. I don't care where my mind goes. I'm just driving to the grocery store, my mind's going there, and then it's going there, and then it's going there, and it's going here, and I'm just not realizing that I'm sitting there creating my world as I'm driving to the grocery store. Not realizing I'm creating the world that is in my head in that moment. I'm literally creating what I'm going to be driving into next. So he says, stop being so tolerant of your mind wandering. Become conscious. You don't have any idle thoughts. All your thoughts produce form at some level. Stalk them and go, judgment, 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 judgment. And Holy Spirit, take all those judgments. Those don't mean anything. I would like to know what you think about this situation, teacher. What does this mean to you, teacher? What does this mean to you? What should I do today, teacher? Okay, so your abundance and your freedom is right on the other side of your judgments, your ideas.
One of the things I really like about this class, which I've been practicing outside, is like the meditations and like particularly breathing.
Yeah.
Because when I breathe and focus on my breathing, it helps to relax my mind, and then all those thoughts, I can slow them down enough to be like, okay, this doesn't serve me, and let it go.
Right.
Whereas where I'm not breathing and I'm not relaxing, I'm like just like going everywhere, and my mind's like like a bunch of static, and then I'm just
exactly.
like going,
That's a great idea. Yeah, using your breath to help quiet your mind so that you can ask and then heal. Okay. So he says, just in case you were wondering why it's difficult to give up judgment, he tells you why. Why is it difficult to give up judgment? Well, because it's apt to be perceived by you as personally insulting.
You don't know nothing.
Yeah.
It's insulting.
Right. Hearing that I don't know anything is insulting, personally.
Could you say it again?
The thing that makes giving judgment hard, the thing that makes giving judgment,
Giving up judgment.
Thank you. The thing that makes giving up judgment difficult is that I interpret it as personally insulting. Wait a minute. I earned these judgments. I earned them. See the scars on my face?
Yeah.
I earned them. See the tears in my heart. See the little cracks in my heart. I earned my judgment. And so I find it insulting. My ego finds it insulting to be told, bro, I know you have been around, but I'm telling you, you do not know. You do not know what anything means, especially if you ain't blissed out, ecstatic, happy, healthy, and wealthy all the time. So I find it personally insulting that my judgments are meaningless. I don't like that. Right? I earned all these judgments. I'm still in debt for them, as a matter of fact. All the facts I think I know, all the things I think I've learned, I'm still paying for them. I'm not just going to give them up. But I will give them up once I learn what's on the other side of them, right? Like, oh, are you saying my total freedom from financial worry and lack is on the other side of those judgments? Oh, so you mean my safety in this crazy world is on the other side of those judgments? Okay, all right, I'm willing.
So then, there's a lot of people think about karma, whether it's good or bad, but karma, payback. So is karma a judgment?
Karma's not a judgment. Karma, and there's lots of different ways to interpret that, but karma is the law of cause and effect. In other words, giving and receiving are the same. It's a law that as you give, so shall you receive. And if you have given love, you shall receive love in your awareness. And if you've given fear, you shall receive fear in your awareness. Now, it's not like you give love and then, oh, now here's some for you. When you give love, when you extend love instead of judgment, you become aware of the love that you are. Always. Always have been, always will be. So it's not like, oh, I gave some love, ooh, now I get some. It's not like that. It's like I just become aware of the love that I've always been and always will be. All right.
It has helped me to learn where judgment is disguised. I mean, we call that our lessons, our learning, our knowledge.
Yes.
And not only, so that's really just our judgment, all that stuff we have learned.
Mm-hmm.
But not only are we giving that up, but that's really just judgment.
Right.
It's all we've been learning.
Right.
We also think we'll be unsafe without it.
Exactly.
Never forget that.
Exactly.
You think you're putting
Yes.
yourself out there with no security blanket.
That's exactly our
And that's
trouble.
where the Holy Spirit comes in and says, no, I got you.
Exactly. My ego tells me that my safety comes from my ability to judge. You know, as a matter of fact, my maturity, according to the Course, I mean, according to the ego, my maturity is that I've developed my judgments enough so that I can meet the world on its own terms. That's a definition of maturity in this world. Okay?
Say that again.
The definition of maturity in this world is that now I know enough to judge. I know enough to judge, and now I know enough to meet the world on its own terms, to meet the demands of the world on its own terms. Okay. So he says the world's training is directed toward achieving a goal in direct opposition to that of our curriculum. What do you mean? The world trains for reliance on one's judgment as the criteria for maturity and strength. So there's our curriculum and the world's curriculum, okay? And the world says you need to rely on your judgment as the criteria for maturity and strength. That's the world's curriculum. Develop your judgment. Train your judgment. School your judgment, right? Exercise your judgment. Develop it. Get a degree for it. Get a lot of degrees for it. Our curriculum is the exact opposite. Give up your judgment. Lay down your judgment as you might lay down a sword or a knife that you hold against your own throat. Then he says, our curriculum trains for the relinquishment of judgment as the necessary condition for freedom. Wow. The relinquishment of judgment as the necessary condition of freedom. You want some freedom? It's all on the other side of that judgment. Once you pull down that judgment, lay it down, then there's your freedom. Your financial freedom, your emotional freedom, your spiritual freedom, your freedom.
It never occurred to me when I want to judge, I'm really saying, I want to stay a slave.
Right, exactly.
Make me a slave.
That's right.
No freedom in that.
That's right.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what we're doing and we don't realize it. It's what I just said, your freedom is laying it down.
That's right.
So then
Go ahead.
it all boils down to needing to be right again.
That's right.
Being right or happy.
That's right, exactly. You get to be right or free. Yeah. Yes, Michael.
When we allow ourselves to come from our heart and, like an oyster, contain every issue with that, wrap it completely, it becomes a jewel beyond any valuation in every part of one's life.
Amen to that.
And that has nothing to do with the head.
That's right, exactly.
It's a total acceptance with gratitude of everything the way it is now.
Right, exactly.
Is that all?
Yeah.
Is that the direction it's going? Well, let me help you go in that
Yeah,
direction.
nice. Exactly, nice. There's a workbook lesson I love. It says, I choose the second place to gain the first.
Oh, yeah. I can understand that.
I choose the second place to gain the first. In other words, I would rather follow. And as I follow, instead of lead, I shall gain all that I really want in my heart of hearts, which is just to be free, to create in ecstasy, just to create according to my nature, all day, every day, and be sustained by it. Yeah, doesn't that sound great? Right. So, yeah. I don't know what I was just saying, but.
It's the second place to gain the first.
Thank you. I spoke the truth, and my ego it was like I blew my ego fuse, and it just went. I said something about like creating in ecstasy all day long relative to your nature and being sustained for it, being sustained by it. Like, you imagine all day long I just create along the lines of my own creation according to what's natural to me, my nature. I just create what's natural for me, and then I'm sustained by it all day long. That's my life. I think I'd rather know something. I'd rather be right. Wow. And every time you're in a dialogue with somebody and you watch yourself going for being right instead of asking, you know that what you're doing is you're saying no to the life that God wants for you, where you're creating along the lines of your own nature every day and being sustained by it. In other words, you're saying no to your salvation, and no to your liberation, and no to your freedom. Every time you're in dialogue with someone, and instead of asking, you are going for being right and leading. Wow. There's some motivation. Wow.
I just got a beautiful awareness because I don't know if this happens to anyone else here, but like sometimes when I'm reading the course, it just seems stressful. But the reason why is because I'm still trying to determine what it's for and what the outcome needs to be and what I'm supposed to get out of it.
Right, yes.
Like if I had any.
Right. Exactly. Like
Yeah.
Like you know enough to, know those things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Any other questions on what was the title of this again? This is Our Changes. Oh, okay. So, are changes required in the lives of God's teachers? Okay. So, the more resistant you are to giving up judgment, then the slower your training program is. Wow. And the quicker you are willing to relinquish judgment, then the faster your training program goes, meaning the faster you get to your freedom, the faster you get back to your abundance and your joy. It all comes down to my addiction to knowing or being right about what I'm seeing. Wow.
We better start Judgment Anonymous here.
Absolutely. That's what this really is. It may look like a course class, but it's JA, Judgers Anonymous, who aren't really anonymous. We are completely obvious to everyone who has eyes to see. We're completely obvious that we're asleep in our judgment. People who are walking around thinking their own thoughts without ever asking their teacher for their teacher's thoughts. Those are people who are literally they're just literally walking around in a bubble of their own judgment. That's all. They're just seeing their own judgment in front of them. Like a little hamster in a wheel. you know those little balls that hamsters get in, and they go across the floor.
Wow.
It's a weird analogy, unless you've have a kid and have had hamsters or gerbils. But you're just walking around in a bubble of your own judgment. You're asleep. We're asleep. We're sleepwalking, thinking that we're awake, thinking that we know what's going on, until our consciousness we've retrained it to ask first, listen, follow. Ask first, listen, follow, right? Now that is a state of mind where you get to experience the world as it really is, where you get to experience the real world, or heaven, because that is what's there, that you will see. That's just what's there. But judgment does like this. Now, when you take down judgment, you're like, wow, look what has been around me all this time. A lot of beauty, a lot of amazing beings, a lot of abundance, a lot of support, a lot of fun.
That's a really good analogy. I've never saw it that way. You see that world out there and go, man, I'm tired of this little cage.
Yeah, exactly.
I would like to go out there. What's it take? You know?
Exactly.
And this is telling us what it takes.
Exactly. It's judgment that has encapsulated you or imprisoned you. You know, whatever it is you feel limited by, whatever you feel is your personal prison. Well, I feel limited by money. Oh, I feel limited by health. Well, I feel limited by the relationship I'm in. I feel limited by, the crazy world. Whatever it is, the bars of that thing, that jail, those are your judgments. Your judgments are those bars.
Wow.
Right. Okay. So wherever you're suffering, guess what? That's where you think you know. That's where you think you know. So you want to find out where you're making the most judgments, all you got to do is go straight to the place that you're suffering in the most this week. Right? And then follow it back. Follow the pain back to the judgment. So you don't have to work too hard to find your judgments that you would like to relinquish. Just follow the pain. Follow the pain. You've heard the phrase, follow the money, follow the money. Follow the pain. And that'll take you right to the judgment. And then look for the place where you're telling yourself the way it is. That's going to be the root of your supposed limitation or your supposed struggle.
And read my favorite number 10, How to Relinquish Judgment.
And then proceed to the next section called How to Relinquish Judgment. Yeah, we could do that next week.
I love that.
You want to do that one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sure.
Y'all help me remember then. Okay, so we're going to stop here since that's the end of the section. We're going to do our love offering. Thank you for your expressions of appreciation called money. I really appreciate them. So does the center. So, a couple announcements. This coming Thursday at 6:30, we're doing our next Dialogue Cafe. So I see everybody here has either been one or knows mostly what it is, but this is where me and my co-facilitators, Michael and Susan, teach people the dialogue techniques that I teach my clients. And for me, this dialogue work is actually forgiveness in action. It truly teaches you how to listen and ask while you're in interaction with another human being. And it is the most beautiful practice or demonstration of forgiveness in connection with another human being that I can imagine. It's a beautiful practice of forgiveness that you can use with anyone at any time, any place. So, incredible value, basically for free. We ask for a donation, but if you want to get a serious value, come here, give a donation, and get what I charge my clients for, a lot of money. So, this is this Thursday at 6:30 to 9:30. You can come with anybody that you would like to deepen your connection with, or come by yourself. There'll be other people to practice the dialogue work with. So come with a pair, come without a pair, just come, all right? If you need any information, come get one from up here. Do RSVP if you can. It helps us to be prepared for you, okay? So if you can, RSVP me, okay? Also, on the piano, I have some new sets of course recordings. So I have been recording the original edition of the course, which has a lot in it. That the version you have in your hand is the edited version. I've been recording the unedited version. Very beautiful, very powerful, has a lot of things that were left out of the edited version. And I've made a lot of copies. They're $10 each. If you want one, put the money, I'll get a basket, put the money up there. And these are really, really, really helpful teaching devices for maintaining sanity when you can't do it for yourself. In your car, while you're falling asleep, in the morning, or all day long if you can't find a sane thought anywhere. Like for me, they're like break glass in case of emergency. Like when I am in a serious crisis where my ego just wants to destroy me, it's out for me, it's gunning for me. I mean, I can't find a sane, loving, peaceful thought anywhere. I put one of these CDs in my car, I put one next to my bed, I put them in my kitchen, I put them on my phone to make sure that when I can't remember the truth, I got something in my ears that is telling me the truth. So basically all it is just me reading to music. But you're getting somebody who's been reading the course for 25 years and is in ecstasy while she's reading. So it's not somebody who's like da 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 da. It's like somebody who's actually waking up and healing while she's reading. So that's what you get on those. So they're $10 each, and I've got up through chapter 4 there. So you can either get like 1 through 4, or you can just pick and choose what you want. Okay? All right. So hey girls, can you close those doors, please? We're just finishing up.
We're gonna clean up our bags and stuff.
Thank you so much.
Sorry if we were annoying you.
Thank you so much. It's okay. Boy, have I got her well trained. Okay. All right. So let's do our integration meditation, where we are going to practice what we heard. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, shall we actually try to relinquish some judgment for a few minutes? Anyone game for that mission impossible? Okay, so, all right. So let's just go ahead and close our eyes. And just breathe. Beautiful. So, first thing I want you to do is just tune in to how you feel right now, having heard these ideas. Beautiful. And then next thing I'd like for us to do together is to tune in to the fact of your teacher's presence. I have a teacher. This teacher is in charge of this curriculum that I have embarked upon. I want you to tune into your teacher. Opening up to an awareness of your teacher's reality. Oh, I have a teacher. Okay. I have a teacher. What does that mean? And go ahead and in some way acknowledge your teacher or address your teacher in your own mind. What does your teacher feel like? Does your teacher have a name besides teacher? Beautiful. And now I want you to see if you can imagine your teacher taking your hand and taking you to a relationship where there are some grievances remaining. Let your teacher take you to the one the relationship where there's still some dark cornerstones of unforgiveness. Your teacher knows which one to take you to. It may have taken you to that one already. This is the first relationship that needs to be reinterpreted. Reinterpreted in the light of forgiveness. Why? So that your old thought system has no basis to return or for return. So now, holding your teacher's hand, I want you to ask your teacher to look upon that dark cornerstone of unforgiveness in that relationship for you. Teacher, look upon this for me. Teacher, show this to me through your eyes. Look upon this for me, teacher. Teacher, what do you see? What does it mean? Teacher, what is it for? And teacher, what am I seeing? Ask, ask, ask first. And then listen and notice what you are shown. Notice what you hear. Do a little experiment within your awareness. With this relationship still in your experience, I want you to notice, well, let's do something else. Now I want you to bring forth something that you have been suffering around in the past week, either physically or emotionally or psychologically or financially. I want you to bring to your awareness something that you have suffered around last week. And now I want you to just tune into, just notice how that felt. How did it feel? How did that suffering feel? Was there a lot of anger? Was there guilt? Was there shame? Was there physical pain? Was there fear? Now I want you to trace back that pain to the judgment that it originated from. See if you can do it. What's the judgment that you made about yourself or another that was the origin of that pain? What is the truth you were blocking with a judgment that manifested that suffering? And then again, become aware of your teacher and ask your teacher for your teacher's truth to replace your judgment. Teacher, what's the truth about this? What's the truth about me? What's your answer to this, teacher? What's your interpretation of this? And then let yourself be answered. Let's just go ahead and generally give our teacher permission to help us relinquish judgment. Please help me, teacher. I want to give up judgment. And I'm going to need help beyond myself. Help me do for myself. Help do for me what I cannot do for myself. It is my desire, goal, intent to give up judgment so I can be free. Help me. Thank you. Beautiful. And then when you're ready, just take a breath and bring your awareness back to the room and back to your body, thanking your teacher for never having forsaken you even when you tried to run away. Amen. All right,
Thank
you
you.
guys, thank you for being here. Appreciate you guys.